Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and extremely exciting news that we have for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak for the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam. However, at a future later date, these patch notes will also become available for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC Windows, because what we're covering today is the patch notes for version 14.0.0, aka 4th free title update. I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below for you guys to check them out for yourselves if you so desire. So we're going to get right into it because there's just a lot to cover. The patch notes will be available essentially today, February 6th at 8 p.m. East Coast time, 5 p.m. West Coast time. So most likely, depending on the time that you're watching this video, they will most likely be live by now. On the Nintendo Switch, the patch notes are just a little bit under a gigabyte, where on Steam they are 2.6 gigs. And they also mentioned that, of course, if you see the little ship symbol next to the patch notes, that means that those patch notes are only applicable for Sunbreak. They are not applicable for base Monster Hunter Rise. So first and foremost, when it comes to main additions and changes, they mentioned that new story elements and new monster has been added that will appear in the Gathering quest. Of course, they're talking about Valstrax. When it comes to new afflicted monsters, a new Risen Elder Dragon has been made available to the game. Of course, that's Risen Crimson Glow Valstrax. I hope you guys have been checking out the short gameplay clips that I've been posting. Link in the description below if you haven't checked them out already. They mentioned that new quests have been added. Of course, that's a given. A new level cap for Anomaly Investigation has been raised. We know that that level cap will be about 220, and further going up in the future. A wider variety of monsters now appear on Anomaly Investigations. That of course includes Anomaly Investigation, Chaotic Gore Magala, and the 4 Elder Dragons, Risen Teostra, Risen Kushala Daora, Risen Chameleos, and of course now Risen Crimson Glow Valstrax. They also mentioned new weapons, new armor, layered equipments, and skills have been added. Now the new weapons are of course new weapons, armors, and layer armors. They're all referencing to, of course, the 2 new monsters being added in, and the skills, presumably as of right now, we're just going to presume that only the armor sets have new skills, but of course we are expecting new decorations. I expect the patch notes to mention that at some point in the future. They also mentioned that Azure Star Dragon Dance and Azure Era Soaring Dragons have been added as layer weapons. Remember that the Azure set were specifically part of the Monster Hunter Rise DLC eras. So now those weapons are also going to be layered, finally available going forward. A new level cap for armor upgrades has been raised, therefore that means you're just going to be able to raise your base defense up further. They mentioned that new skills have been added to a tool of potential skills available in Curious Armor Crafting. What this means is most likely stuff like the Silver Rathalos, Gold Rathian, Lucent Nargacuga, maybe Flaming Espinas, whichever monster's new skills simply had not become available through Curious Crafting, now they are. Pretty much every single new patch we're getting a bunch of new skills available through Curious Crafting, which is making the meta a whole heck of a lot more fun. They also mentioned that you can now earn extra bonus when expanding anomaly slots on a weapon. I'm going to have a separate video on this tomorrow because I dive into it much further, but pretty much anomaly weapon Curious Crafting is about to get crazy. I already made a video on this, so we're going to leave that for tomorrow. 2 new augment types have been added to Curious Armor Crafting. This is also part of tomorrow's video. Essentially, just more options to make your weapons even stronger. New prizes have been added to the Market's Lottery. So this basically means those little ducklings that you have been getting, like whenever you get the lucky roll on the lottery, more of them are coming. New trinkets and hanging scrolls have been added. Of course, that would probably just refer to the 2 new monsters being added in. After you hunt them 10 times, you get a brand new scroll. New items have been added for the trade in the Anomaly Research Lab. This is something that we got a closer look at during the presentation, where they showed that you can now get the eggs. They're worth Zenny. You can actually get them through Anomaly Research coins as well. When it comes to new systems and elements, they mentioned that of course new Hunter loadouts are now available. To preserve stability of the game data, this update will add 14 pages to the Hunter loadout, with the next update expanding it to 28. Remember, Hunter loadouts just means that you can make now your weapon setup, your item setup, and your armor, layer armor weapons setup all like sync up all at once, so you don't necessarily need to be changing one individually after another. What this makes it, if you're using like a specific weapon, but you have different elemental builds for that same weapon, you can just pretty much have them all set up, and you can just automatically have like different items changing the way that you look, all of that kind of like preset. It's kind of like already the system that's already available there, but it's just like kind of like how do I say this, an umbrella version of it, a bigger version of pretty much all the preset loadouts you already have available to you. One of the biggest complaints that have been levied to this, as I made a separate video on it, is the fact that Palamutes and Palicos are not part of this. So you can set up your Palicos and Palamutes, but you're gonna have to still go through that loadout separately. They should be added into the Hunter loadouts already. They mentioned that new features and enable disable sell BGM at the housekeeper. This is all if you just choose to buy DLC. New guild card titles have been added. I know you guys are excited about this. I know I am. This is the best feature added in this patch, 100%. They also mentioned that a new badge of heroes has been added. Of course, that is if you take down Volcana. And in the next patch, if you take down a certain flying brand new Elder Dragon they're going to be adding in, of course, you're going to get a new badge of heroes as well. And specifically when it comes to Steam, they mentioned that new 3D audio option has been available. This 3D audio option is already available on PlayStation and Xbox, so now it's finally making its way to Steam. Now when it comes to bug fixes and balance changes, there are a lot of things here. I'm not going to try to cover all of them, but I'll try to cover the main ones that I think are somewhat relevant. They mentioned that they fixed an issue where the player could attract Hellfire Blight while inside the tent, which is pretty funny. They fixed an issue with icons on Switch Skill Swap and Feline Fireworks will not be crossed out in the action bar when unavailable due to status illnesses. They added extra mitigation measures for an issue preventing certain weapons sound effects from playing a lot, as the sound effects occur simultaneously. And I would argue that voice, kind of like lines being repeated, also happens way too much. Even though you can adjust it, still happens way too much. They fixed an issue where the effect of Wind Mantle would be cancelled when using an item with the sword and shield unsheathed while jumping off a platform. Now, Wind Mantle has been buggy for quite a bit, so it really depends on the usage that you have. They fixed an issue for Gunlance causing the Bullet Barrage attack to activate even if you only have one active wire bug available, if you control from a lunging up thrust into a quick reload. And if you are a Gunlance user, you know you have been abusing the hell out of this already. They fixed a bug that occasionally causes to shoot 2 shots be fired in a single button press when they're using heavy bowguns crouching shot. They fixed a bug causing the line to be displaced in the center of the red alert symbol through heavy weapons reticle cause when overheating during crouching shot. And lastly, they fixed the percentage of explanations text level 3 spare shot skill from 20 to 25%. Actual in-game percentages have not changed. So spare shot is really good, but you get that message quite a lot, so they're most likely going to be adjusting some of that. When it comes to buddies, they did make some changes in the same way as followers as well. They fixed an issue with buddies that causes the Palamute Silk Binder to be displayed during the Jet Drift animation where your Palamute is wearing the Rush costume. They fixed an issue preventing it from being used. The feline works under specific circumstances in multiplayer, and they fixed an issue with some buddy armors not displaying correctly. When it comes to followers, which there's plenty of new changes to the followers, they fixed an issue preventing the followers from wyvern riding a mountable monster when other followers are performing some heavy bowguns crouching shot or light bowguns ammo mech silkbind shot. They fixed an issue causing followers to temporarily stop moving when trying to wyvern ride a monster that was forced into a multiple states by launching another monster into it. They fixed an issue causing Utsushi's voice line from getting hit by the player and staying in the quest completed sequence. They fixed an issue causing followers to return to combat area when the player is at camp if one of the special weapons become unable to be used during a fight with Ibushi or Narwa. The followers can now be able to correctly dodge Apex Rathalos' special attack. They can also dodge Chaotic Gore Magala's backwards and jump health attack. They fixed an issue that occasionally prevents followers from initiating wyvern riding if the player brings them down on a quest with an Apex monster. And lastly, they fixed an issue causing followers to keep going up and down elevated areas when they start wyvern riding under specific circumstances. So the theme here is that yes, wyvern riding for buddies and basically followers has been adjusted quite a bit. In the same vein, they mentioned that plenty of monster changes have been made. They mitigated an issue that occasionally causes Almudron to move up and down when knocked over specific field of geometry. Allmother has been bugged for quite a while, so them still adjusting that goes to show just how bad he actually was assigned. They fixed an issue occasionally preventing Risen Kushala Daora's breath attack from activating properly. They fixed an issue occasionally causing all monsters' appearances to be different from the actual status when joining Risen Teostra's quest as a guest. They fixed an issue preventing the tail effect from being properly displayed during Score Magnamalo's intro movie. They fixed an issue occasionally causing Vale Mitsutsune's to show unintentional behavior when sliding towards his target to kill it. And they fixed an issue causing 8 eggs inside of Narwa's Allmother's Thunder Sack to stay on screen even though they have been exploded when Narwa is defeated. Moving over to locales and environments, they mentioned that in locales, they fixed an issue that occasionally causes a monster or terrain to disappear when moving the camera while launching the monster into the wall of Area 9 and the Frost Islands. When it comes to the Nintendo Switch, they mentioned that in version 3.10, issues were addressed preventing players from carving severed tails if the tail overlapped with the fences in a specific area. This fix will not properly be reflected in version 10.0.2 onward, so the fix has been available again. The same thing can also be said for Steam. And lastly, they mentioned that Endemic Life, they fixed an issue causing 2 marionette spiders to be consumed when one is attached to a monster and the player tries to pull it back exact at the same time that the monster changes area, also returning to the player not being able to pick up additional marionette spiders. They fixed an issue occasionally causing scale lizards to drop materials that they're not supposed to drop. I wonder what those type of materials would have been. My guess is mantles, and that is because we've seen clips already of that. When it comes to base and facilities, they mentioned that they fixed an issue allowing players to clip through the wall on specific locations in the Elgato outpost. A notification will now be displayed when you reach the maximum number of locked quests for anomaly investigations in the quest counter. This is a really good addition. I'm happy to see it. They fixed an issue preventing players from quickly skipping through the pages by holding down the button on the item exchange page and anomaly research lab. And they fixed an issue preventing notifications from popping up as players have collected all the necessary materials registered in the wish list for Anomaly Research Lab. When it comes to miscellaneous, they mentioned that quests have been adjusted in some fashions, but they don't necessarily get too detailed as to what that actually means. Some lower requirement quest levels will now appear on their research requests. They fixed an issue causing guests to obtain anomaly investigations when performing specific set of actions. They fixed an issue causing incorrect rewards to be awarded when completing anomaly investigations at a specific quest level for Bishaten and some Star 1 A1 monsters. They fixed an issue preventing Somnicons from appearing at the lava caverns in anomaly investigations. This is interesting. I never even knew about that. And when it comes to equipment, they mentioned that they changed the name of the Zenogre Tree Longsword from Oppressor's Abyss to Oppressor's Law. I'm sure this is really going to affect players. They fixed an issue causing the gun barrel and the antique Machina GL gun lance to appear unnatural while being in the tent. They fixed an issue causing the monk cell hat and Eternal Diadem layered armor to show up in special categories. Big, massive changes there. When it comes to the menus, they fixed an issue causing the names to remain of the item bar when they were discarded from the temporary box. The accept praise gesture cannot be used while walking. They added anomaly research followers to the hunter information. They adjusted afflicted monsters entry in the hunter information. They fixed quest levels on the drop rates for afflicted hard claws and afflicted hard fangs in the hunter nodes. And when it comes to Steam, they mentioned that they fixed an issue occasionally preventing obtaining anomaly research points entry from being unlocked at the hunter's info. And lastly, on the final page, when it comes to other, they do specifically mention that when it comes to Steam, they addressed some frame rate data situations when it's being set to VSync, high settings, and frame rates locked into 9, which is really important. Any sort of frame rate situation is always an issue, but more importantly, they fixed an issue occasionally causing crashes when the save data is partially corrupted and the player changes with Chaotic Gore Magala's theme is being played or sets a song that have not been used before. Some quest events are not part of the application itself rather than being downloaded separately, and a notification will now be displayed in case of an error when corrupted save data is loaded. Remember, this is applicable for both PC Steam and Nintendo Switch. Therefore, PC Steam players will finally see at the very least 2 official changes when it comes to save corruption data, which we haven't seen since day 1. And that's pretty much all the patch notes. Once again, link in the description below, check them out for yourself. Plenty to go over. They're not as meaty as some of the other patch notes we have seen before, but that's kind of expected. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.